would you do if Adolf Hitler was your uncle? 3 men faced this reality. Heinz died in Soviet custody, Leo was captured at Stalingrad, and William Patrick changed his name and fought for America. In this video, we follow the journeys of the men who carried Hitler's bloodline but made different choices about their family legacy. Heinz Hitler. Heinz Hitler was born in 1920, the son of Adolf Hitler's half-brother, Alois Jr. From an early age, he grew up under the shadow of his uncle's rising political power. Unlike other relatives who kept their distance, Heinz became Adolf Hitler's favorite nephew. The young man received personal attention from the Nazi leader, who saw potential in him. This relationship would shape Heinz's entire life and ultimately determine his fate. At 19 years old, Heinz enrolled in the National Political Institutes of Education, known as Napola schools. These elite academies trained future leaders of the Third Reich. Heinz studied at the Plön Institution, one of the most prestigious in Germany. His education focused on military discipline, Nazi ideology, and physical endurance. By all accounts, he excelled in his environment, fully embracing the regime that bore his uncle's name. His instructors noted his enthusiasm and loyalty, qualities that made him stand out among his peers. In 1941, Heinz joined the Wehrmacht as a signals officer. He served on the Eastern Front, while Germany was engaged in brutal warfare against the Soviet Union. That same year, he received the Iron Cross Second Class for his service. The award demonstrated his commitment to the Nazi cause, though some historians speculate it may have been influenced by his family connection. Regardless, Heinz participated in some of the war's most grueling campaigns, including Operation Barbarossa. His military career took a decisive turn in January 1942. During a mission to retrieve radio equipment near Vyazma, Soviet forces ambushed his unit. Heinz was captured and transported to Moscow's Butyrka prison, a facility known for its harsh conditions. Records indicate he underwent intense interrogation by the NKVD, the Soviet secret police. Prison documents list his official status as a special prisoner, likely due to his high-profile family ties. The circumstances of Heinz's death remain controversial. Soviet authorities claimed he died of natural causes on February 21, 1942, at just 21 years old. However, historians have questioned this account. Some suggest he may have been executed due to his relation to Hitler, while others believe the harsh prison conditions contributed to his death. His body was never returned to Germany, and the exact details of his final days remain unclear. Heinz's fate echoed that of countless young German soldiers, but his family name made the story even more tragic. Leo Raubal Jr. Leo Raubal Jr. grew up in Linz, Austria, the son of Hitler's half-sister Angela Raubal. Born in 1906, he lived an ordinary life as a chemistry teacher before the war. His physical resemblance to his uncle Adolf was striking, similar height, facial features, and even the same distinctive moustache. This likeness would later cause him problems, as strangers sometimes mistook him for the Nazi leader. Unlike his cousin Heinz, Leo showed no interest in politics or military service during his early years. He preferred teaching science at a technical school in Austria, maintaining a quiet distance from his famous relative. When Germany annexed Austria in 1938, Leo's life changed. Though not a Nazi Party member, he was drafted into the Luftwaffe in 1941 due to his engineering background. He served primarily as an instructor for anti-aircraft crews rather than as a frontline soldier. His technical skills kept him away from direct combat for most of the war, until his unit was transferred to support the Sixth Army at Stalingrad in late 1942. This assignment placed him in one of the war's most brutal battles, despite his non-combat role. During the final days of the Battle of Stalingrad, Leo suffered shrapnel wounds that immobilized him. As German forces collapsed, he became trapped behind enemy lines. Soviet troops captured him on January 1, 1943, one day after Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus surrendered. His identity as Hitler's nephew was quickly confirmed by his military papers. The Soviets transferred him to a special NKVD prison for high-value prisoners, where interrogations focused on his relationship with his uncle. Unlike regular POWs, Leo remained in strict isolation, cut off from communications with other prisoners or the outside world. Hitler learned of Leo's capture through intercepted Soviet radio messages. According to staff members at the Führer's headquarters, Hitler refused to authorize any special rescue attempts. He reportedly stated that officers should share the same fate as their men, a principle he had enforced throughout the Stalingrad campaign. This decision contrasted with his earlier treatment of other relatives, such as arranging safer postings for Heinz Hitler before his capture. Leo's mother Angela pleaded with her brother to intervene, but no diplomatic efforts were made to secure his release. In 1943, the Soviets proposed exchanging Leo for Joseph Stalin's son, Yakov, who had been captured by German forces. Stalin notoriously refused, claiming there were no prisoners of war, only traitors, in reference to soldiers who surrendered. This ended any chance of any early release. Leo spent the next 12 years moving between Soviet prison camps, including time in the notorious Lubyanka prison. Neither the Nazi regime nor later West German authorities succeeded in negotiating his freedom while Stalin remained in power. Conditions in Soviet captivity were harsh. Prison records show Leo suffered from malnutrition and repeated illnesses. Unlike regular German POWs who were repatriated in the late 1940s, high-profile prisoners like Leo were held much longer. His knowledge of military technology made him valuable for interrogations about German wartime research. Soviet authorities also questioned him extensively about Hitler's personal life and family relationships, though Leo claimed to have minimal direct contact with his uncle after 1933. Leo finally returned to Austria in 1955, after West German Chancellor Konrad Adenauer secured the release of the last German prisoners from the USSR. He weighed just 100 pounds and required months of medical treatment to recover from his ordeal. Despite intense curiosity from journalists and historians, Leo refused all interviews about his experiences or opinions about his uncle. He quietly returned to teaching chemistry in Linz under his full name, Leopold Raubal, carefully avoiding any association with the Hitler legacy. Unlike his cousin, William Patrick, who actively denounced his family connection, Leo never publicly addressed his relationship to Hitler. Colleagues and students described him as a private, reserved man who focused entirely on his work. He never married or had children, living with his mother until her death in 1949. In his later years, he occasionally encountered neo-Nazis who hoped to connect with Hitler's family, but he consistently rejected their advances. When Leo died in 1977, at the age of 71, his obituary made no mention of his notorious uncle, just as he had always preferred. William Patrick Hitler. William Patrick Hitler was born in Liverpool in 1911, the son of Adolf Hitler's half-brother Alois Jr. and his Irish wife Bridget Dowling. Growing up in England, he had little contact with his uncle during Adolf Hitler's rise to power in Germany. This distance shaped William's perspective. He viewed his famous relative more as a curiosity than an influential family figure during his early years. His mother Bridget claimed to have met Adolf in 1912 when he stayed with them briefly in Liverpool, though historians debate the accuracy of her account. What remains certain is that William grew up outside the Nazi sphere of influence, unaware of how his family name would later define his life. In 1933, after Hitler became Chancellor, 22-year-old William traveled to Germany, hoping to benefit from his uncle's position. He initially found work at the Reichsbank and later at Opel Automobile Factory. However, his expectations of preferential treatment were quickly disappointed. When William lost his bank job in 1938, he attempted to blackmail his uncle by threatening to sell embarrassing family stories to newspapers. This backfired. Hitler responded by having the Gestapo pressure William into renouncing his German citizenship. Fearing retaliation, William fled to England in 1939, just months before World War II began. His escape marked a turning point in his relationship with his uncle and the Nazi regime. After returning to England, William wrote an article for Look magazine entitled "Why I Hate My Uncle." Published in 1939, it exposed corruption within Hitler's inner circle and described his personal encounters with Nazi officials. The article gained international attention, making William one of the first relatives to publicly denounce Hitler. He later gave lectures in the United States about the dangers of Nazism, though some audiences remained skeptical of his motives. His notoriety as Hitler's nephew made him both a curiosity and a subject of suspicion. Authorities questioned whether he might be a Nazi plant rather than a genuine defector. When William arrived in America in 1939, the FBI opened a file on him. J. Edgar Hoover personally reviewed his case, uncertain whether to classify him as a security risk or a potential asset. William spent years under surveillance while struggling to find steady work. His family connections made employers wary, despite his anti-Nazi stance. This changed after the US entered the war in 1941. William repeatedly petitioned the government to let him serve in the military, but his applications were initially rejected due to his foreign status and infamous surname. President Franklin Roosevelt eventually intervened, approving his enlistment in 1944 after a lengthy security review. William joined the US Navy as a hospital corpsman, assigned to the medical branch rather than combat units. Some historians suggest that this placement reflected ongoing concerns about his loyalties. He served aboard the USS Bunker Hill during intense fighting in the Pacific Theater. In 1945, he sustained injuries when a kamikaze attack struck his ship near Okinawa. The wounds earned him a Purple Heart, an irony not lost on military observers, given that he was fighting against his uncle's allies. Navy records show he received an honorable discharge in 1947, having completed his service without incident. After the war, William changed his name to William Patrick Stewart Houston. combining his mother's maiden name with a new surname. He married Phyllis Jean-Jacques in 1947 and settled in Pechogee, New York, where they raised 4 sons. The family operated a blood analysis laboratory, maintaining a quiet, middle-class existence. William Patrick Stewart Houston died in 1987, aged 76. The lives of Hitler's nephews show that even family couldn't escape the fallout of war, but they weren't the only ones who carried Hitler's bloodline. To discover what happened to the rest of his family, including the niece who lived with him and the relatives who vanished into quiet obscurity, watch our video What Happened to Hitler's Family After World War II. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more stories from World War II, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching.